Hello everybody once again, and welcome to another session. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Decalogue. So let's begin. So the word Decalogue comes from Greek and it means 10 and study. So the study of 10, the study of the 10 laws, the 10 commandments that were given to Moses 5,000 years ago on Mount Sinai. So remember in lesson 1 when we spoke about the doctrine of the eye and the doctrine of the heart. And we said that humanity has been living for many years based on the doctrine of the eye. That is the intellect, the mind, while the doctrine of the heart would rather point to intuition, to the consciousness, to the heart. What we're trying to say here is that every story or allegory contained in any religious book or any esoteric tradition, be it a mythological story such as those of Achilles from Greece or Norse mythology, those are symbolic stories. When we use the doctrine of the eye, we interpret those stories literally. We interpret those names and events as if they really happened exactly as the story is telling us. But in reality, such stories contain symbols that indicate to us something beyond. So when we use the doctrine of the heart, we analyze using intuition and our consciousness in order to discover what really the masters try to teach us, try to transmit. And unfortunately with the 10 commandments, it's been the same thing. People have been interpreting these commandments in a literal way. And so religious differences, wars and conflicts have arisen as a result of this misunderstanding. Let's take a look, for example, at the first commandment.
I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not have any gods before me.
But the question is, what do we understand when we refer to God? If we were to go to the very first 3 words of the Bible, in Hebrew it says, Bereshit bara Elohim, which literally translates into English as, in the beginning God creates. But this word Elohim is actually very different than the word God. First of all, the word Elohim is a plural word, which means gods and goddesses. So in the very first 3 words of the Bible, God is established as many gods and goddesses. And that is in contrast to the image of what society today interprets as God, which is that of an old man sitting in a cloud, throwing lightning bolts at people. So, through the doctrine of the heart, we are able to open our minds and to see beyond, to question what we've been told, what society said. You can see that this first commandment actually is very symbolic. We have every human being has an essence. And so that essence was of course created by God itself, by this almighty creator. So when we think about the false gods, it wouldn't be really referring to other religions, but rather money, for instance. For many people, money is their god, is their religion. For some people, profits are all that's important. Or maybe sex, or war, or violence, anger, greed. You see, in our society, those are the new gods. Fame, appearances, plastic surgery, celebrities, the media. Those are the false gods that we should not worship. We should keep the Lord our God, but in an esoteric meaning. We need to understand that God lives in every living creature, that every man and woman in this planet is been created by a creator, something beyond our understanding, to keep God as our only God means to love every single human being, every creation, every tree and every plant, to love and take care of this planet Earth. Now let's move on to the second commandment.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
Well, people say, thou shalt not swear, and that's okay, it's the literal interpretation. But this goes beyond just to say, I do not swear in God's name. Esoterically speaking, we need to understand that spiritual names are sacred. Understanding that those names are sacred and that we should be respectful and not name them in vain. Then we go to the third commandment.
Remember to keep holy the Sabbath day.
Today, people sanctify festivities in an external way. Whenever there's a religious festivity, be it the Day of the Dead, Easter, Christmas, Carnival, and so on, what people do is they party, they drink, they eat a lot, and the problem is that we forget the spiritual aspect of the festivity. Today, those dates have become sort of an excuse for us to get together and drink and party, when in reality the true sanctification would be by entering into meditation, concentration and deep respect. But what about the festivities of our soul? When we feel joy, we should sanctify every single day by being thankful to the Creator for allowing us to live another day, for allowing us to have our children and our wife still with us, for allowing us to have our daily bread. You see, we do not understand that every single day is a blessing, so we should sanctify every single day. Our birthday, for example, the most important day of the year for each and every single one of us. What a better way to sanctify our birthday than by being in prayer, by being integrated with ourselves, and maybe even fasting. Because we should be thankful for the possibility of living for another year. The fourth commandment says,
Honor thy father and mother.
We should honor our father and mother. But we need to remember that also we have a mother and a father spiritually, a heavenly Father and a female aspect of God that created us. And we need to sit down and reflect, why have they created me? What would it be like not to exist? We know we exist, but how? If we know we exist, then we should know what it is like not to exist. So the miracle of the existence is something that we should be thankful. We should honor our spiritual father and mother for allowing us to exist as spiritual beings. The fifth commandment says,
Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill. But what do we understand by killing? You see, we kill with our words when we insult someone. When we tell our wife, I do not love you, or you look ugly. We are killing her with such words. And certainly, we should not do that. So we kill every single day of our lives with the way we act towards others. And we need to be more kind and more loving. We kill someone anytime we despise another human being. We kill someone anytime we fail to acknowledge their merit, anytime we ignore them. And now we move on to the sixth commandment.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Esoteric tradition teaches us that this commandment is actually thou shalt not fornicate, which is very different from the ninth commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery. So why would there be two commandments, two laws that refer to the same act? Well, that's because adultery is one thing and fornication is another. Gnostically speaking, fornication is the act of wasting our energy. And anytime we use any of our energies, be it sexually, emotionally, or intellectually, in an unnecessary way, we are fornicating. And the biggest form of fornication, of course, is associated with sexuality. But that is a very deep subject, which we will dive deeper into once we reach to lesson number 19, when we will talk and discuss the symbology behind the mystery of the Garden of Eden, the story of Adam and Eve. And then the 7th commandment,
Thou shalt not steal.
if I take something without permission, I'd say, oh, I'm gonna return it later. I'll just take it. I'll borrow this. Well, that is stealing, because I do not have that person's permission not to take it. Or I could also steal an idea. Maybe one of my colleagues had a wonderful idea and then I present it and I do not give credit to him or her. That is a way to steal an idea. Now let's see the 8th commandment.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
This commandment essentially can be translated as thou shalt not lie. But we need to understand that we lie more often than we think we do. Maybe we do not consider ourselves as liars, but I'm going to put you a clear example as to how we do give false testimonies. Let's say that somebody comes and says, hey, you know what? So-and-so did this. Now, we do not have any evidence that this person really did that. Yet we then go and say, hey, you know what? I heard that this person did this and that. And how many times the media presents some news saying that somebody in particular committed a crime or did something wrong. Then he's sent to jail, to prison, and after a few years he has to be released because he was an innocent man. Yet we maybe condemned that person and said they should give him the death penalty. Or it's unbelievable what this person did. We do not know if it's true or not. So why do we then say it or tell friends about it? We do not know. So we give false testimonies. Anytime we repeat something that we've been told without being certain that it's true or not, we are giving a false testimony. We are lying. We're being liars. So think about everything we say, like throwing papers from a bridge. It would be completely impossible to then try to pick up every single piece of paper, right? So that's what happens with our words. Anytime we say something we heard about somebody, we are attacking, we are degrading that person's reputation without knowing whether it is true or not. And that is another way to earn karma, by saying things of which we are not certain whether they are truth or not. And then there's the 9th commandment, which is,
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
adultery is to mix. So, when we commit sexual adultery, it's because we are mixing bloods, the bloods of different families. But we can also commit adultery anytime we genetically modify something, like with transgenics. We also commit adultery anytime we mix one medication with another in order to gain profits. And finally we have the 10th commandment.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods.
This is about accepting that everybody has what deserves. Everybody. What I have is what I deserve. What I don't have, maybe I don't need it, or I haven't earned it. To envy other people is not correct. But rather, we should feel happy for our neighbor's success, for his achievement, for his or her progress. So, this was, in general, a brief summary of the study of the 10 Commandments using the doctrine of the heart, trying to see beyond the typical interpretation that other people made for us, We might think of ourselves the best, but in reality, when we put our hands on our heart, we realize that in many ways we are just self-deceiving ourselves into believing that we are perfect, when in reality we are not.
The intuitive one can read where the master doesn't write and listen where the master doesn't speak.
So, thank you so much for your attention, and I will see you next time. Take care.